He built a following of millions with just his hands and a grill. But days after celebrating love, tragedy struck. Michael Duarte, better known online as FoodWithBearHands, wasn't just another food influencer. He was the guy who could turn a simple backyard BBQ into something that felt like home. His laughter, his smoke-covered aprons, his family-filled videos, they were comfort food for the internet. But this week, that warmth turned into heartbreak. Fans around the world are still reeling from the news. Duarte, the California-based creator who inspired millions with his cooking videos, has died in what's being described as a horrible accident while traveling with his family in Texas. Only days earlier, he'd been celebrating his 9th wedding anniversary with his wife, Jessica, posting photos that radiated joy and gratitude. Now, those same posts feel like goodbye letters. His agency, friends, and millions of followers are struggling to accept how suddenly the man who brought so much joy could be gone. But before the world knew him as a viral chef, Michael Duarte was just a small-town cook with a dream. And the story of how he built that dream, and how it ended so tragically, is as inspiring as it is heartbreaking. Because behind the videos, the laughs, and the perfectly seared steaks was a man who fought through darkness to create something beautiful. And tonight, we're remembering how Food with Bare Hands turned pain into purpose, and how his final journey became a farewell no one saw coming. His name was Michael Duarte, though to millions online, he was simply Food with Bare Hands, the guy who could make a steak sizzle like a symphony and turn ordinary recipes into works of art. He wasn't a celebrity, chef with fancy kitchens or sponsors flashing in every frame. He was real. His videos felt like something you could smell through the screen. Grilled ribs smoking under a sunset, his daughter giggling in the background, his calm voice reminding you that food was meant to be shared, not just served. That's what made people fall in love with him. Michael had a way of making every viewer feel like family. His followers weren't just numbers, they were dinner guests at his virtual table. In every upload, you could feel his joy, his gratitude, and that gentle pride of a man who had worked his way from small kitchens to digital stardom. There were no flashy edits or gimmicks, just sincerity, laughter, and the comfort of a man who cooked with his hands and with his heart. But few knew the story behind that easy smile, the challenges he faced, the struggles he fought quietly, and the path that would turn a simple love of food into something far deeper. Because before the millions of views and brand deals, there was just a kid from Calipatria with a dream and a second-hand grill, and his story was only just beginning. Michael Duarte's story began far from the spotlight. In Calipatria, California, a small town tucked near the U.S.-Mexico border, where the desert heat could make the air shimmer and family meant everything. Life there was simple, quiet, and built on hard work. His uncle owned a small Mexican restaurant, the kind of place where the smell of grilled carne asada drifted out onto the street, and kids learned the value of community before they ever learned a recipe. It was there, at just 14 years old, that Michael found his calling. He wasn't born into privilege or fame. He was born into the rhythm of the kitchen, the clatter of pans, the hiss of oil, the music of everyday life. His uncle became more than just family. He became Michael's mentor, teaching him not just how to cook, but how to create moments that mattered. That restaurant became his school, his sanctuary, and his spark. As he grew older, Michael carried that love of cooking into restaurant jobs across San Diego. He worked quietly, humbly, often behind the scenes. The guy who never needed attention, just the satisfaction of seeing someone enjoy what he'd made. But something in him was restless. He wanted more than just to feed people. He wanted to connect with them. And yet, no one could have guessed that this quiet kitchen worker, the man who once just grilled for family on weekends, would one day become a voice, a personality, and an inspiration to millions. Because then, the world stopped. The pandemic hit. And for Michael Duarte, everything, absolutely everything, was about to change. In 2020, when the world shut down, Michael Duarte's life did too. Restaurants closed, paychecks vanished, and the comforting rhythm of the kitchen, the one thing that had always kept him grounded, suddenly went silent. Like so many others, he faced a darkness he didn't see coming. He left his job and began struggling with his mental health, openly sharing later that it was one of the hardest periods of his life. In a rare moment of honesty on social media, he admitted he'd hit rock bottom and made the brave choice to check himself into rehab. Those who followed him back then didn't see a broken man. They saw courage. They saw someone who wasn't afraid to start over. Coming out of rehab, Michael wasn't looking for fame or followers. He was just looking for peace. And somehow, he found it in the most familiar place of all. Standing behind a grill, hands coated in seasoning, smoke rising into the sky. He found peace in the smoke of his grill. It wasn't just about food anymore. It was about healing. Cooking became therapy. Sharing it became purpose. And when he picked up his phone to film again, it wasn't for attention. It was for connection. The sound of sizzling meat, his daughter's laughter in the background. Those moments brought light where there had been darkness. But with peace came purpose and a new identity. Because the man who once struggled to find meaning was about to become a symbol of resilience, creativity, and love. The world was ready to meet food with bare hands. He started small, just a phone, a grill, and a few simple ingredients. At first, Michael Duarte posted videos of BBQ, street food, and the kind of comforting meals that made people feel at home. There was no production crew, no sponsorships, just him in his backyard, laughing as the smoke curled up into the camera frame. The clips were raw, imperfect, but filled with heart. Then came the moment that changed everything. A short, casual video he filmed with his 6-year-old daughter, Oakley. They were flipping burgers together, giggling, talking about food like it was an adventure. It wasn't just another cooking video, it was real. And that authenticity made people stop scrolling. Overnight, millions connected with the warmth of a dad just doing what he loved with his little girl. In one of his posts, he reflected on that moment. That's when I realized how happy creating content made me. It was more than just a quote. It was his rebirth. The man who once cooked quietly in restaurant kitchens had become an online storyteller. Each recipe came with emotion. Each video felt like an invitation. From ribs glazed in honey butter to tacos dripping with flavor, his food wasn't just delicious. It told a story of hope, family, and second chances. Soon, his audience exploded. Millions followed across Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. His brand became a movement, one built on kindness, creativity, and connection. Strangers wrote messages saying his videos helped them through tough days. Families said his recipes brought them closer together. But while his online life soared, no one saw what was coming next. Because behind the laughter, the viral views, and the family road trips, a quiet tragedy was already on the horizon, one that would break hearts across the world. Just days before the world would lose him, Michael Duarte was celebrating love. 9 years of marriage with his wife, Jessica. 9 years of laughter, hard work, and raising their daughter, Oakley. On social media, he shared glimpses of their anniversary, his words full of gratitude and pride for the woman who'd stood beside him through every storm. Friends commented with hearts. Fans congratulated them. No one could have imagined that, within days, those same hearts would be breaking. Soon after, the family traveled to Texas, what was meant to be a joyful getaway. But somewhere along that trip, everything changed. Details remain private, but his loved ones described it simply as a horrible accident. The kind of moment that flips a life upside down in seconds. Out of respect for the family, no further information was shared. But the shock rippled across social media. Thousands of messages flooded in. Fans, fellow creators, and even people who had only seen one of his videos all wrote the same thing. "I can't believe he's gone." A GoFundMe page appeared shortly after, reshared on Michael's own Instagram. It wasn't written by a marketing team. It was written by people grieving. "This heartbreak came without warning," it read, leaving Jessica to incur the expense of bringing him back home to California and covering funeral expenses. "We ask that you lift Michael's family up in prayer during this extremely difficult time." Each sentence carried the weight of a man who'd given so much to others, and whose family was now asking for the same compassion he had shown to so many. The fundraiser quickly filled with donations and messages, proof that the kindness he gave had come full circle. But what fans did next says everything about the kind of man he was. Because when the internet learned that Food with Bare Hands had fallen silent, they didn't just mourn a creator. They celebrated a life that had fed millions of hearts. The tributes began almost immediately. Within hours, timelines filled with photos, videos, and memories of Michael Duarte. Moments of laughter, moments of mentorship, and the kind of energy that made people feel seen. Chefs from around the E.A. country posted their own BBQs in his honor, captioned simply, "For Michael." Fans shared clips of their favorite recipes, calling him the reason I learned to cook with my family again. Even fellow influencers, people who had built their own careers on food and creativity, paused their content to say goodbye to the man they called a light in the industry. Then came the post from Aluma Media Group, his talent agency, the people who had watched his rise from a backyard grill to a global audience. "It is with profound sadness that we share the passing of our valued client and dear friend, Michael Duarte," they wrote. "He was a true and loyal partner, a trusted collaborator, and above all, a remarkable person. His passion, professionalism, and creativity left a lasting mark not only on our team, but on everyone who had the privilege of working with him." Those weren't just formal words. They were heartfelt. You could feel the respect between the lines. They went on to call him a devoted husband, a loving father, and a loyal friend to so many around the world. And for those who knew him personally, that description couldn't have been truer. Michael wasn't just a content creator, he was a mentor, always encouraging others to start their own channels, to tell their own stories, to find healing in what they loved. It wasn't about fame or numbers for him, it was about purpose. In a world filled with competition and noise, he reminded everyone that kindness was still powerful. His quiet encouragements in comment sections, his genuine collaborations, his DMs to smaller creators. Those are what people remember most. Because Michael Duarte wasn't just cooking, he was healing people. Through every video, every laugh, every meal shared online, he showed that sometimes the simplest acts, a meal, a smile, a story, can help someone find hope again. Even in the silence that followed, Michael Duarte's presence didn't fade. It transformed. His wife, Jessica, and their daughter, Oakley, have vowed to keep his mission alive, to share food with people who need it the most. The same. Words still shine in his Instagram bio, untouched, like a quiet promise that continues to guide his legacy. Friends say Jessica plans to honor him by continuing small community food drives, the same kind Michael used to dream about organizing once his brand grew big enough. Fans, too, have taken his message to heart. Across social media, people began tagging their home-cooked meals with "Your Cook with Heart," a phrase he often used when signing off his videos. Others have shared stories of how Michael helped them through their own battles with anxiety or loneliness, simply by being honest about his struggles and showing how something as ordinary as cooking could rebuild a life. His story has become more than a tragedy. It's a reminder that success isn't just about fame or followers, It's about family. It's about second chances. It's about purpose. Michael showed that no matter how dark life gets, there's always light to be found in doing what you love and sharing it with the world. He fed the world with his hands, but it was his heart we'll remember. The warmth in his voice, the laughter with his daughter, the compassion he showed to strangers, those will never fade. Rest in peace, Michael Duarte, and may his story inspire all of us to keep creating, no matter the darkness.